Hello, everybody, and welcome to Imma Time. We are here today with three amazing women. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, we have Masha. She's a mother of four amazing, courageous, strong children. You should totally check out an episode that we did recently. Secondly, we have Sari, mother of six, from teenagers to a newborn, so mazel tov on that, and she's an OT. And we have Tamar. She's a therapist, and she has adult children, married children, a bunch of grandchildren, and thank you, yes, for being here. So let's do this, guys. We're here to talk about uncertainties. Oh, and by the way, I'm Dina, your host. We're here to talk about uncertainties. What are uncertainties? Is there any certainty in life at all, ever? Not even talking about now specifically, where we literally have rockets flying over our heads, or at least we did a few hours ago. So what is it? What is uncertainties? And why does it make us feel so uncomfortable when we don't know what will be? Masha.
So on top of it's just like, right, the first thing that comes to mind is uncertainty is when we admit to ourselves that we are not in control. Suddenly we had a plan, we had a schedule, we were going to go to the park, we were going to go on a trip, we were going to go to Tel Aviv, and now we can't because so all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I am not in control. I am not safe, I would like to say, and I don't just mean that physically, I mean that like mentally. Like I had a plan and now it's off kilter. And of course, all these things, specifically, I'm talking as a mother with children, so it's not just about me. These things, bridge and ping pong to everyone. So I think that's the first thing. Uncertainty is that reminder, I am not in control. And that is scary and that is uncomfortable.
Okay.
Is there your second part of your question, is there anything really certain? So it's interesting because it is. There are, I think, routine. I always loved routine.
Okay.
There are people who hate it. I love it. It's like a security blanket for me. I love waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I spice things up and wake up at 5:50. I do all the things I have to do, my coffee, my email, whatever it is. So my needs are out of the way. And then we have a morning routine. Yes, sometimes those things go awry, of course. But those mundane routines are like a security blanket, especially when it hit Corona, especially when it hit the war. These are things, we still get dressed in the morning. We still brush our teeth in the morning. We still eat, just those routine things, even in the craziness.
So, Tamar, when it comes to routines, do you also feel like that's something that, I guess, as a therapist, keeps us grounded, helps us, especially during uncertainties?
Yes and no. It really depends on the person. Like Masha said, some people are like, I need my routine, and some people aren't like, that's not me. I mean, I think that there are certain things that, like she said, are routine. There are certain things that we know we can expect, right? Unless something major happens, we can expect this to happen. We can expect that to happen. The kids in school know at this time a bell is going to ring and then we are going to go to lunch. There's a certain rhythm, but like they know what to expect. I think the uncertainty comes in when it's like, this is new and I don't know what's next. I think that's when they get thrown off. I mean, not just the kids. Us as well.
100%.
It's like, okay, what's going to be, I remember in Corona, I remember walking with my husband with a mask, seeing everybody with masks, and I remember saying to him, is this the new reality? Like from now on, we just wear masks? Like from now on? Okay,
forever.
It wasn't, but we didn't know. So that was uncertainty, and that was like kind of throws you off. Like, I like knowing what's going to be,
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, 100%. So, Sari, what do you think as a mother, if you see when your children and when yourself are going through these periods of uncertainty, whether it's a war that's going on or also anywhere in the world, something happens, someone chas v'shalom got sick, or not even bad things, it could also be with good things. A baby's going to be born, we don't know when, we don't know anything. How do we help our children navigate that? How do we regulate ourselves first to be able to then be there for our kids?
Right, that's a very key point, what you said when you just mentioned when we regulate ourselves. That's a very big piece in children's regulation and functioning. Let's talk about regulation. Okay, when we say regulation, what are we talking about? What do we mean?
What do we mean? I don't know.
So there are really three areas that are all connected to each other. The first is our thoughts, our beliefs. Our thoughts affect our emotions and our feelings. And as a result, we have behaviors. We do things. We take action, or sometimes we don't take action when we need to. So beliefs and thoughts are anything that either, it could be something we grew up with, something that's cultural based. It doesn't matter. Anything that the narrative, the way we interpret any situation we're in, whatever it is we think, we're going to end up producing a feeling.
Okay, so you're saying that whatever we're thinking and whatever the reality is, it's going to make us feel something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So any feeling we ever have, feelings, emotions, they're always produced by a certain thought that we have, a certain narrative, a certain perspective that we have about whatever the situation is.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to emotions, it's very interesting because none of them are actually dangerous. We have a lot of different emotions and feelings that we avoid because they don't feel very good. I don't think I know anyone who enjoys feeling bored or scared or anxious or any other uncomfortable feeling, but they're all useful. We need all our feelings. We need them for survival. We need them as our drive to function, to accomplish things. And it's interesting because we have this tendency to try to run away from these things.
Okay.
And more than that, we try to clean up the world for our kids because we don't want them to feel any of these uncomfortable emotions.
So we're trying to cover up that there's, let's say, it's all on our minds right now, not give them so much information about the war so that they don't have these thoughts, so that they don't have the anxious feelings. Is that the process, let's say?
It can be.
Okay. However,
but that's a strategy that's very specific.
Okay.
That can work for some people, will work for some people. It won't necessarily.
It depends on the age. It depends on a lot of
there are a
different
lot
things.
of factors that go into it. There is no right or wrong answer.
Right.
Right.
So at the end of the day, are there certain things that could help us cope to, yes, regulate basaf? I know this is very general, but let's say specifically, one thing that if you're feeling the uncertainty, let's bring it down, let's regulate.
There really
I
is
have
one
one
answer.
Yes, go for
You
it.
have one answer that works
Breathe.
across the board.
Yes.
Yes?
People don't realize that they forget to breathe. When people are anxious, people are afraid, people are feeling the negative side of those emotions. Many times when like if I'm sitting with a client and I will say to them, okay, take one really big breath, and they're like, I was holding my breath. I'm like,
Wow.
I saw that. Like, or the breath is just too shallow. Taking really good deep
I
breaths.
feel like doing that right now.
Yes, you should. It's taking really good deep breaths
Yeah.
relaxes your nervous system. It allows you to think straight again. Because when you're holding your breath, so then you don't have enough oxygen and then your brain is going crazy. And then, you know what I mean?
Vicious cycle, yes.
Breathing is a really, really, really big one for just centering yourself and calming yourself down and being able to think clearly.
Thank you so much. Wow. Masha, have you used this technique with your children? I know we've spoken about before different times where they're either waiting for a surgery, we don't know what's going to be, you're just waiting.
So it's so interesting, both of what you're saying. I have some children who need the breathing. I have some children who need to shake it. They need to shake. They need to physically ground themselves, which I learned from a wonderful woman, this technique of putting your feet on the ground and then slowly taking different parts of your body and shaking it out.
Literally
Different
standing
kids,
and shaking your
literally
body.
just shaking it out because there's so much going on, and they're actually in a place that they almost can't breathe because then the anxiety comes. What I love about this is that really every person's different. Every child's different.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's very key of knowing, of taking that second and realizing what may really work for me or what really work for one child may not work for the other child.
Wow.
For me, I'm going to sound so cliche and idealistic, but here it goes. Gratitude grounds me. When I am freaking out about anything, I even play, like I practice.
Okay.
Like, let's challenge myself. Like, you know, really yucky situation. How could I find something good in it? It doesn't have to be major. It doesn't mean that I'm sugarcoating anything. I'm a realist. My kid's in surgery. Another kid is waiting for a test. It is not pleasant. But I have a husband who I could bounce off ideas. I have a family that supports me. I have children. However, whatever it is, you could find something. And all that does, it doesn't, again, this is not, oh, war is wonderful, I'm becoming stronger. I love having sick kids. It's not what this is about. But it plugs me back in, okay?
Yes.
Because when something, especially a crisis, and when sirens are blaring or whatever it is, there is that whirlwind, that sort of tornado thing. And when the gratitude for me, and this is a very specific thing, I could just imagine asking someone else, I have someone in mind, would be like, okay, not sure I understand, but like whatever works for you. So yeah, that works for
That's
me.
your thing. Amazing.
And I think part of our job is to help our kids figure out what works for them.
Right.
Yeah.
To like not tell them like you're not going to go to a kid and be like shake it out.
Right.
Or
Right.
That's
What is
exactly
this?
right.
Like
Yeah.
help
Read the
them.
room.
How do you feel now? Did this help you? Like have the conversation. Even with a really little kid, you would be surprised how much they will be able to tap in and be like, yeah, I feel better now.
Wow.
Like really having the conversation with them and continuing the conversation also to your adult children.
Okay.
Because it will change as they get older, as
Okay.
they mature, as they experience different things in life. I still have the conversation with them. You know, I have a kid who lives in Tel Aviv. Lots of sirens in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And I discuss with him like how are you doing? Where do you go? What do you do? Like and it evolved from, you know, the beginning of the war till, you know, Erev
Today.
Rosh Hashanah, when we were all, I think, pretty
Shaken up.
rattled.
So I love the examples that you both just gave. They're very specific examples to specific situations. I do want to direct what I think you're saying, and that is awareness, the topic of self-awareness, because that's an incredible tool, and it's a very essential tool in coping in general, not just in uncertain times, but always. So I want to tell a little bit of what happened with us just last week. Last week, Tuesday, at 9:12, we get this message from my mother on the family group. Guys, we don't have any more information, but my baby brother, something happened in Gaza. We're on our way to the hospital. They're saying he's in critical condition. We don't know anymore. Don't call us. We'll update with more
Hey
information.
guys, I'm here for just a few seconds to tell you all about our friends at Boutique Efrat. They are this gorgeous store in Ramat Beit Shemesh Aleph, and you should definitely check them out. They have amazing pieces, unique pieces for weekday, for Shabbos, and everything in between. So next time you're in Ramat Beit Shemesh, go ahead and check them out.
That's stressful. You're asking about uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty there. It did take me a little bit time to understand what I was hearing. And I just want to share the 4 different things that I actually did shortly after that happened. The first was that I paid attention to how I was feeling because, like I said before, feelings aren't dangerous. They serve a purpose. And I sat there just being aware of what my body was feeling like. I noticed that my breath was more shallow. I noticed that I was feeling my heartbeat. I noticed that I was jittery. And then I told myself, okay, what is this jitteriness? It's just adrenaline rushing through my body. Now, what do we know about adrenaline? Adrenaline is the hormone that helps us move. It goes along very often with cortisol, which is a stress hormone. By the way, just a side note, our bodies actually produce higher levels of both adrenaline and cortisol before waking up in the morning, so that actually helps us wake up in the morning. So if anybody ever feels more stressed when they wake up, it could be part of the reason. So that was the first thing that I noticed. The second was that I started listening to my thoughts. Because we all have the power of questioning anything we think. We don't have to believe any thought we think.
Okay.
I say that to my clients a lot, by the way. Don't believe everything you think.
It's very true.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that because that scares me. Let's come back to that. I'm like, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. That's why I'm not going to tell you what to think. But I will tell you that you have a right to question it.
Yes.
You don't have to
Myself, yeah.
believe everything you think. As a matter of fact, my brain, one of the things I was noticing was that I was predicting things as if I knew what was going to happen. We didn't have information. The doctors were very vague over the phone. It wasn't even the doctors. It was the Army. The Army can't give any medical information over the phone. I was listening to my mother's message, which meant that I was affected by the way she was responding. I noticed what I was saying, and I had the power to change what I was saying or to affect it to a certain degree. The next thing I did was seek support because we're social beings. We need to co-regulate. I do think that we should all strive in a way to be a lot more self-reliant than we are, to not depend on the people around us as much as we do, not to blame them for the way we feel, because ultimately my happiness, my regulation, my feelings are my responsibility. So I can't put any blame on other people for the way I feel or for situations I can't control, such as war. There's very little I could actually do about that.
There's a but. No? Is there a but
no,
coming?
there's not a but. No,
No
I
but?
just wanted to say that just like I can't put blame on other people, I also can't, I can't really say that other people have, they're not the cause of my happiness either, because that's also internal, and I could create that within myself, and it's my responsibility to create it.
But when it comes to support,
But support, right. I think support is something different. I think once you've shared it, it's two people carrying a heavy load
together.
It's what is the saying? A problem
Shared, something like
shared is
that.
a problem halved, I think is the saying, but I might be wrong, and if I
Something
am,
like that.
edit it out. I think support is like how we get through things in our life. I think it's different than blame or dumping or I think like, hey, I'm turning to your friend and saying, you know, I'm really scared right now. I don't know what's going to be. I think that
That's
I think
helpful and
that's
healthy,
the expectation. If you're going to someone, take away my problems, that's not going to work out for you.
Right, and that's part of the narrative that we believe. We don't have to believe those kind of things.
Correct. But support is that thin line between that.
Okay.
Of having someone who, first of all, just venting. You know, meaning my expectation isn't for you to problem solve for me, not to take away my pain, not to, I mean, we're also talking about so many different variables in terms of like what situation, you know. But this particular example, you hearing something that is scary, like point blank, scary, very unnerving. If your expectation is for someone to say everything is going to be all right and wave a magic wand, that's not support.
right.
That's an expectation that is just not realistic, healthy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's
like,
fake.
you know,
Yeah.
but I think surrounding ourselves with positive, strong, and healthy people is like the key. Like
agree.
all the hate and just the hate and the anger and the also, people saying things with certainty.
Okay.
I'm living here. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. How can I?
And
Right. Just
people-
surrounding yourself with healthy, strong, and people you respect.
And by speaking, you're processing. It's actually
Therapy?
by saying yes.
Therapeutic?
It really is therapy because as you're speaking it,
Yeah.
assuming this is you're in a safe space and you have a person that you feel respects you and hears you and cares about you, talking through the thing they're not going to have the solution, but many times just saying it out loud allows you to process whatever feeling it is that you're feeling. So then I'm sure you've all had this with your friend, your sister, your whoever, that like you're saying something, you're okay, you know what, as I'm saying it, I'm realizing that because by saying it out loud, your brain processes it differently than just saying it in your head. So that's another key to sharing it with another person is processing it. And women do that. Women do that naturally, I think, much more than men in general.
Sorry, could we just end off the story with saying? What
Yeah,
happened?
is he
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
He's okay. He's okay. He got home
Baruch
yesterday.
Hashem,
Baruch
Baruch
Hashem.
Hashem.
We had a few very scary days. He's okay.
Thank
I have no
God.
doubt that the tefillas and everybody else, everyone's support, it was incredible. Definitely had an effect on that.
Whew, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, that was a lot.
Part of uncertainty was like, I was afraid to ask that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was
true.
thinking it the whole time
Yeah,
as
so
you
what
were
happened?
talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm
Probably should have
hoping that
started with that.
she's bringing up the story, but
Happily ever after.
you are afraid to ask. I'm
Yeah.
always afraid to ask people.
Yeah.
You don't know who's in, who's in the army.
Yes.
So many people have lost someone or know someone who lost something.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
all my life I was like, I don't ever want to walk on eggshells. Like that is a very important thing in my life. The people in my life, I need to feel calm and peace, with no eggshells.
How's that working out for you?
And now it's like you're literally walking
Yeah.
on like a minefield.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because,
100%,
even
yeah.
asking someone, hey, what's up?
You
I
never
just had a
know.
siren. I've been having a bad day,
Yeah.
Yes, you never know.
It's
And that's what's crazy to me is that it's all these things on top of everything else. It's not
Right.
like you still had to cook for Shabbos. You still have to feed your kids. They still have to go to school. It's like that. On top of that, you have a newborn child. Like it's a lot. It's a lot.
it makes me hate making supper so much more.
Yes.
I really feel like we should be exempt.
Interesting.
Cereal and
What do you
milk.
suggest?
Oh my gosh, it really makes me angry actually.
hear
Yes.
that.
Like
I hear that.
I could do the big things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The regular stuff,
Yeah.
they're always hungry. It makes me very upset. I really think
Interesting.
feeding
No one
my
warned
kids
me.
happen to
Nobody
be,
warned me.
and
I
they're
know.
they're very hungry when
And
they're
every
nervous.
day, every
When
day.
we go into the bomb shelter,
like I fed you
literally
yesterday.
for 3 minutes, it's a reaction.
Yeah.
They're all starving.
Yeah.
Like we just ate
it's
supper.
a stress thing.
It is
Wow.
a stress thing.
One of my kids picked up a package. He goes, look at the ingredients. It says my feelings. I was like, help yourself.
good.
And they
Yeah.
keep on eating the stuff in the
Right.
mamad, so we're constantly
Right.
like, I keep on using the batteries, like all my stuff I keep on using.
Send
I'm like,
us
oh my
batteries.
gosh, I'm going back to Osharad for the
Yeah.
same shopping
Yeah.
list.
I think
Oh
with
my.
that, I think the eating and searching for food, it
Yeah.
actually, I didn't say what number 4 was.
Oh,
did I
yes.
mention there
No,
were
you
4
didn't.
things?
No.
So the fourth thing that I did was take action.
Okay.
By saying to Hillel, by realizing, okay, we're going to the hospital, even though my mother said, no need, don't come. It was actually my husband who said, okay, we're going to the hospital. But I started getting ready. I started packing up food, whatever I could grab, because I didn't know how long my parents were going to be there, if anybody had brought food for them. So if we have adrenaline running through our bodies because we're stressed and because we need to move and get something done, then we can either wait for it to come out or we can help release it by taking action, which is why so many people go out for a run when they're stressed.
Amazing.
Or we go searching for food, or we do chesed and bake for somebody who needs it, or make
Yeah.
supper for somebody else, because we're
bake
taking
a lot.
control once again of our
little control that we
situation,
could,
little
yes.
control while utilizing the adrenaline. It comes right back to awareness.
Awareness of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and then doing something with it.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and I could tell you, by the time we got into the car, 5 minutes later, I was feeling better. Significantly better. I was able to breathe normally, and I wasn't feeling that tremendous anxiousness I was just a short time earlier.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wait, so sorry. So could you remind us about the 4 things that you did to help yourself?
the 4 things, yes. The first was noticing my body, noticing what I was feeling, what I was sensing. For me, it was a faster heartbeat, it was a shaking of my body, and it was a more shallow breathing. But for other people, it's going to be something else because everybody's very individual. That's why you have to find the strategies that work for you, the breathing methods that work for you, the exercise that you love doing.
So number 1, noticing what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Number 2.
And not being so scared.
Okay.
Because feelings are not dangerous.
Okay. Not being scared
And there
of
was
them.
something that I noticed as I was going through it.
I'm
I
scared of my
noticed that, okay,
feelings.
this is how I'm feeling. This is adrenaline. Great. It stopped scaring me. Shaking wasn't, it didn't scare me anymore.
It's empowering.
It didn't have any power over me.
Right.
Wow. Wow. So number 1, noticing. Number 2.
Number 2 is notice your thoughts. Start
Notice your
paying
feelings,
attention
notice your thoughts.
to the
Okay.
thoughts that you're having. So number 3 is seeking out social support, which at first was my husband. He was the only one around. And then later when we got to the hospital, the rest of my family. I'm one of 10 kids, so it was a party.
Lots
a
of
lot of
support.
spouses were there too.
Amazing. And number 4.
And the 4th and final one is taking action.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much. So Masha, I know that we've spoken a lot about the taking action part. Okay, so let's say we've noticed our feelings, something crazy is going on. I could notice my feelings, my thoughts. Maybe I have support, maybe I don't. But when it comes to taking action and preparing, I know you have a lot to say about that. Could you tell us a little bit?
So I really resonate with a lot of what you said with like going there, like, going into my thoughts and especially when it comes to medical issues and war, they sometimes coincide. Going to the hospital, but a child is afraid to go to the hospital because there was a siren in the hospital, so now they don't want to go, things like that.
Yeah.
So yes, I am very into prep. That is one of my coping mechanisms. And when my kids first got sick, I noticed like this incredible thing that they always seem to get really sick Erev Chag. Erev Chag and on Shabbos. It was just like, are you
Perfect
kidding me?
timing,
Really?
yes.
Like,
Yes.
anytime there was a Hatzalah, it was on either Thursday or on Shabbos. So I started to be prepared. So as soon as one Chag is done, I start cooking for the other.
Wow.
Freezer's always full. And those things help. They really do help. Again, that's helping me feel a little bit more in control. One time it was, I think, the entire summer I stocked up for Rosh Hashanah through Sukkot.
Wow.
And then, wait, this is when Hashem goes, Shafe, you could do the best you can, but someone left the freezer open.
Oh no.
Didn't know that
Oh,
the
that
freezer was
hurts.
open.
Oh, no.
All my stuff. And because I have a child who had a transplant, he really can't, like people were saying, but it's still cool. You could put this, like I can't mess
can't.
around with anything like that. And you know what? It was okay. Like
How?
no, so that's what's
How's she
interesting
gonna
about
change
it.
Like,
I
it
don't
had to be
know, but-
okay.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
would love to know which coping skills you used.
Yes.
Because I see people who fall apart over things that are a lot less
So
severe.
I let myself fall apart. I think that's what my coping thing is. I've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
I have tantrums. And I'm totally down with it. I think it's healthy. My tantrums are often to God. Are you kidding me with this? And I will do this. Sometimes I do it in the street. My kids are like dying. And it's also not the big things. I find this very interesting. Like I was talking about supper.
Yeah.
It's not when a siren happens.
Okay.
It's not when a catastrophic. It's like
And you've had your catastrophic things. It's not.
I
it's not-
have,
Yes.
but it's like when my baby was on dialysis and I needed to get him out of the crib because he was crying, but I couldn't get the crib thing down. And I just had a full-on you create the world every single day, every single second. You can't put down the crib. And it was like, and that's okay. I think that's okay. I mean,
It's better
again,
than okay. I want you to know
yeah,
that. Like
it's important.
That's really good. Yes.
And one of the things I tell my kids, tantrums, like the feelings, they're okay. In normalcy, you can't start
respect.
punching people and you can't start making a scene, but feeling what you feel and just like confront it. Like, as you said, that they lose their power. I am upset. I had a really bad day. I really heard bad news. Whatever it is, I cannot believe I have to do the shopping again. And then I get it out. And then you move on because A, you don't have a choice. And B, and this is something that we spoke about a little bit. Yeah. We're doing it. Like this concept of, I mean, I have had times where I will get to the hospital and thought I had a hischayvut, which is, a referral, and they'll tell me, oh, yeah, you have a referral for this, but you don't have a referral for that. And I will go, I quit. Like, what are you doing? Yes. What are you quitting? Like, what are you going to do? Yeah. And then you realize you're not going to quit. You're doing it. You're doing it right now. Yes, you had a setback, but you're actually doing it. Like this, we did Corona. It was hard. Yeah. We did it. Do I want to be doing a war? Absolutely not. Do we want, all of this is, it shouldn't even have to be said. But, and we were talking about this before we started, I am humbled by my children's strength. Talk about resilience. Yeah. I mean, like getting stuck in something, crying, my daughter saying, I will never leave the house again.
You said getting stuck on a bus.
She was laying on the ground with Sari, with the things, being...
flying over her head.
I was going to say exploding.
Yeah.
They were exploding over her head. They were being shot down.
Yeah. And she was absolutely terrified. And she came in and she goes, that's it. I'm never going to leave the house again. And she left the house. But she embraced that.
That was her little tantrumy, by the way.
Yes.
Like you modeled it.
She could do them really nicely too.
I like it.
And it was very interesting because she came home and she was very mad at my husband and me. Okay. Like very mad. Like, why did you let me go out? It was very, very angry. And my husband, he said something to me, and I have to tell you, I'm like, he is very, very, very smart. He said to me, don't apologize. Not yet. Let her be angry. Because when you apologize, she's going to accept it because deep down she knows that you didn't throw the rockets. And, you did. When she asked me, I heard rumor that Iran's going to attack. And I said, look, honestly, I don't know if you should be going out, but I'm not going to stop you. We did not hear anything. We had 4 hours last time, so we were sort of like relaxed about it. Didn't realize that was going to happen in 18 minutes. But she went, and my husband said, if you apologize, she's going to accept it, and then she'll stop talking. Let her be angry. Let her just, and it really was an amazing thing for her because she did. She vented it out, and I listened, and my husband listened. And
then she went out again.
Yeah, she went out again. And I was nervous about her going out, but I was like, don't say anything. Wow. Let her go out. Wow. And she said, it's going to have to happen, so why not go out?
Wow.
You're touching on something that's very, very important when it comes to raising kids. Yeah. And helping them build resilience, because the ability to cope with anything stressful, any uncomfortable feeling is a skill. It takes practice. It takes awareness, more for us as adults, because kids aren't going to stop and take the time to become aware. But it's a skill, and part of it is being able to problem solve. And if we go ahead and clean up the world for our kids and don't let them cope with things, they will not develop these skills.
Agreed. And it's a very big thing now.
It's true for physical pain, and it's true for emotional pain as well. I see that with my 3-year-old. When he falls on the sidewalk, I don't go, oh no, look what the sidewalk did to you. I go, oh wow, you scraped your knee. Cool, is it hurting you? And then we go into the house and I'll be like, is it still hurting you? We'll revisit it. We'll talk about the physical pain. We'll talk about the emotional pain. Like if another kid comes home and says somebody said something really hurtful to him in school. Really? Tell me more. How did you deal with it? Look at you now. You're still coming home with smiles and you still had a great day. What did you do to make that happen? These things build so much strength, and you are able to model these things and to create it in your own children.
Wow.
I have to tell you, it does not come naturally. There are times that I have to say to myself, I go in the yard, I say it out loud, it is okay that they're uncomfortable. They are allowed to be uncomfortable. You're in a
Good for
bad mood.
you.
Why can't they be in a bad mood?
Good for you.
And my husband has a lot to do with it. But like he'll process for me.
Wow.
She's allowed to be disappointed. Like she's allowed to be scared.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we know when it's the right time to intervene? I mean, obviously, this depends on millions of things. But is there something that we could? Is there some sort of magic formula where we can know to yes be more involved or no be more involved?
It depends which thing you're talking about.
Yes. Tell me more.
Meaning, if you're talking about the war, I think it's more modeling than anything else.
Okay.
I think that, you know, if you're talking about a kid who was bullied in school, you know, your kid comes home and says they're bullied, you need to step in because they are not able to do what needs to be done.
Meaning with the school
to
or
yes,
whatever.
to protect
And
themselves.
if a child comes home and says they're bullied, do you just believe them?
I do.
Yes.
Tell us.
If your kid comes home and says,
Yeah.
this is, you know, the kids are saying this, the kids are saying that.
Yeah.
If they're giving you specific situations and you have reason to really feel they're bullied,
Yeah.
yes, one of our jobs as parents is to keep our kids, make sure they're safe.
Okay.
I just have another experience with
Okay.
the kids I work with and my own children that sometimes they go to extremes with absolutes.
Oh, you can
and
take what they're saying with a grain of salt,
that's
to
what I'm talking about.
yourself.
That's what I'm talking about.
but
Okay.
clappe the
Oh,
kid,
for sure.
Yeah.
you're
You're on their
100%
team.
like, oh, this is.
Well, you
let's,
listen.
Yeah,
You
let's
listen,
talk
you
about
hear
it.
them
And
out.
it's not just hearing them out; it's asking you have to ask them questions like, oh, where was the Mora when that happened? Oh, was it during the first hafsaka or the second hafsaka? First of all, them processing it with you, again, the processing is going to make them feel better.
Yeah. Without the
And you-
interrogation part.
Exactly.
Also, yeah.
It's like asking curiosity. You want to show curiosity. And that will bring them to wanting to speak about it. And then beyond that, if you're hearing, okay, the one day, if your kid comes home one day and says they were making fun of me, I wouldn't go, you know, guns
Kick them
blazing
out of
into the
school.
school.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's happening over and over, I absolutely would go guns blazing into the school because that's if we're not protecting them, then nobody is.
Yeah.
So,
What-
that's
Yeah, one of our jobs as parents is to keep our kids safe, right? And another is to model appropriate behavior and appropriate responses. Because the third piece of regulation, if the first is your thoughts
Okay.
and having the appropriate amount of control over what you're willing to think or just not letting your thoughts go overboard in any direction.
Yeah.
So if our thoughts are what create our emotions, and again, emotions are not dangerous and they're not scary. My kids can have tantrums. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't faze me unless they cross a line. But the third piece of regulation is our actions, because whatever we feel will get us to take action or to avoid taking action, and that's the third. I'm saying if you could be stressed out as much as you want, but you can't harm anybody because of it. You can't take out your frustration on somebody else. And for a parent to step in and fix the problems for this kid, that's also part of the behaviors that
Again,
you have to consider exactly what you're doing. You have to get all the right information from the kid.
right.
But what you said is very true. By listening to what the kids say and not giving them the word, not interpreting or telling them what they're supposed to feel, what we assume they feel, we could be getting more information that we didn't have. we are modeling listening, which is a very important skill, especially in this day and age where everyone just wants to give their own opinion and say what they think and feel. And these are also very important skills to give our children.
I think it's important also to realize that our kids know us so well. Our kids can read our faces. Our kids can read our body language. A tiny little story. When I was a very little girl, I had a teacher who was really abusive in the classroom, like terrible, terrible, terrible. And my father was the principal of that school. And she used to say to me, if you say one word to your father.
Wow.
And I was scared to say anything to my father. And then one day, he was laying on his bed and I was sitting next to him and he was like, you know, Tamar, how was your day? I was like, you know, blah, blah, only locked this kid in the closet once today by accident. And I remember, I wasn't looking at him, but I felt his whole body tense. And he goes, Ma? Really softly. And I was like, oh, I did it. I knew he was trying to like not react and trying to be, and my dad was this big army man, but he was trying to just be very calm. And I knew, oh my gosh, he is so upset right now. And obviously everything came out, but I remembered that so many times in my parenting career, that they know. You can pretend like, oh no, everything's fine, but they know. Oh. They know. So better to step out into the backyard and get yourself into the right headspace and be like, okay, this is the headspace I want to be in so that I can go back in and present myself the way I want them to see.
Yeah.
Right. I'm also a big believer in, I'll answer you in a minute.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Big believer in timing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, and then I'll be honest with them, I gotta think this through.
Yeah.
It's like, or if they ask me a question while I'm frying something, it's just not gonna happen. Like,
you know what I love
need to,
about that?
What?
There's that piece of continuity that when you stop yourself, first of all, you're showing them that you have self-control. And then not everything has to come right out just because I'm thinking it or feeling it. But the fact that you can come back later and open up a conversation about something that your kid probably forgot about, that's a very important piece in developing attention span in many areas of life.
Well, I also think that's why I was saying before, timing is very, very important, especially in the war. Like coming up, let's say, with strategies for, you know, running into the shelter, it may not be the right time while you're all so tense. While your kid is shaking, you know what we should do. But after they unwind, after they ate something, after they forgot, can we talk about our method or, you know, just spitball? You know, like one kid, when I say, get out of bed this minute, it doesn't work for them. The other kid, you have to yell because they just don't hear you. So it's, I'm a big believer in that. Like, visit the topic later.
And this, again, comes right back to awareness.
Yes.
Know your crowd, know your population, know yourself, know what works for you, what works for your kids.
Amazing. So I think let's end off on that note. How, as parents, what do you guys suggest we do for the awareness? It sounds like so much about it, so much about parenting, so much about everything is learning our kids, knowing them. Do you have any tips or ways where, like, how does a parent do it? It's a very, very busy life. Things are crazy. How do we get to know our kids as much as possible for who they are, for who they really are, and not, like Sari was saying, what we think about them and what we think really happened and all of that? How do we do that? Yes, Tamar, you want to say something?
I think a lot of it is talking to them. Spend time talking to your kid, no matter what the age is. Ask them, again, I'll say the same word again, be curious. What is your feeling about this? How do you feel about it? Do you feel scared when that happens? Not even only in the negative, scary, corona, whatever it is. Also asking like, hey, you know, the last time we had a siren, this is what we did. How did that work for all of you? Would you like, was that good? Would you have wanted it to be different? Should we each person have a job? Talk to them, get their feedback, and let them share with you what their feelings are, what works for them, so that you can adjust, because we're the adults. Okay, so we have to say, like, even if for me it's easier for me to do it this way, but if I know my kid needs me to do it differently, I'm the one who needs to do it their way. So just talk to them and give them the vocabulary. Teach them the emotional language to be able to express what it is that they're feeling, so when big things happen, they have the words to express what they want to give across to you, and they'll have the safety.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was great. I think that besides for what Tamar just said, there's, I would say less is more very often. We want to be there for our kids. We want to help them. Being around them and actually listening to them, not without necessarily even talking. Try to create an environment where your kids feel safe telling you things without being cut off, without being judged, without getting any comments about anything they might say. Listen, really hear what they have to say, and trust them that very often they know what they're saying, and they know what they know, and they know what works for them.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, Masha.
So for me, I sometimes, in general, I process slowly. So I like to, I call it like rewatch the movie. Like watching something once just doesn't, I have to read books twice. I have to ask people to repeat things. So I am very into going over, that's how I fall asleep. I go through the day very quickly, and I'm like, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what could use tweaking, what took me by surprise. Like, you know, certain things like, okay, this was not a smooth morning, and I have smooth mornings most of the time, so what went wrong? They didn't go to sleep on time. I didn't go to sleep on time. I woke up late. So tweaking those things, but I call it rewatching the day. Like I go through the day and then sift through, okay, well, this was new, never had that issue, not fun for me, and see, okay, this is something I need to explore. My kid became a teenager. Wasn't expecting that. And going over it with my husband and going through, rewatching the day. And the two things that I like for me, what worked and what didn't work. And there's no judgment. What didn't work is usually very, very helpful, because then you just eliminate that, you know, that thing. Okay. So overly planning on what they want to wear is no longer going to work because they change their minds in the morning. So great. Now you have an extra 10 minutes at night because you don't have to go through their clothing. So just rewatching, revisiting, being open for flexibility, and like you keep on saying, curious, not only for them, curious on myself. Like
100%.
Wow, that did not work for me.
Yeah.
Like my kids shouting at me or having their friends, you know, all bombard me with, that does not work well for me. So no problem. Now I know. So then, you know, I'll just tweaking and just sifting through the day.
Amazing. Okay, you guys, thank you so much, every single one of you. And
gosh, I
everyone
loved it.
watching also, thank you so much for being here. We hope you end off a little bit wiser, with a little bit more knowledge about what we spoke about, and also a little bit more inspired. Like Masha said, and I love this so much, we're already doing it. Whatever it is we're doing, even if we had the worst day, we are doing it. You're amazing, and see you next time.